Hi everyone, this is a brief video talking about the subject of Chinese martial arts and isometric training. It's quite common that we give different labels or names to similar training protocols or programs depending on the origin of that exercise and also the purpose and the goal of it. In my experience, so I have a bit of a background in sports science and in Chinese martial arts. I'm particularly interested in the similarities and the parallels between those two worlds, and how they cross over, and also how they can complement each other as well. Okay. Now, isometric training from a Western point of view really got very, very popular in the 1920s and the 1930s when a man named Charles Atlas, or his real name, Angelo Siciliano, put together these programs for 15 minutes per day when he claimed he could turn you into a new man. Okay, and they were mostly isometric programs which became really, really popular. In fact, even famous athletes and boxers like Rocky Marciano and Joe Louis followed these programs. And later on, a man named Bruce Lee did as well. Okay, and what we found was that this tended to go out of fashion, fast forwarding up to the 1960s, late 60s, 70s, with the growth of bodybuilding. Now, bodybuilding and weight training was shown to be much more effective for increasing muscle mass, hypertrophy, muscular size, than isometric training. So it kind of faded away somewhat. However, from a Chinese martial arts perspective, we're very interested in this kind of training because aesthetics is of less interest. However, building strength and power that we can use is very, very interesting. Now, there are two main types of isometric exercises. The first being static holds with your own body weight, sometimes called yielding isometrics. These can include things like holding a squat or lunge, holding a push-up position, or even hanging from a bar. And the second type of isometric exercises is pushing or pressing on an immovable object, sometimes called overcoming isometrics. So, for example, if I use this pad here, place my fist, and I push and press as hard as I can into that using all of my force, okay? That is overcoming isometrics. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit interesting because if we look at the yielding exercises for a second, so I mentioned static lunge, okay, and down into this position here. I'm going to hold this for a period of time. Now, we could have something very similar if we're looking Chinese martial arts in the dragon stance. And again, I hold that position. So the crossover is really big there, and that includes things like circle walking, jam jong, any kind of static exercise which is similar to the yielding side that we're talking about on those isometrics. When it gets really interesting is you look at how you actually perform that exercise. So this is one thing I got from one of my Yichuan Sifus, Hui Ke Wa. He's very, very big on isometric training, and he would talk about how you can use different levels of skill in that training. So actually performing an exercise at different levels. So if you look at it this way, in Chinese martial arts, we talk about Fa Li and Fa Jing. Okay, Fa Li more or less being represented as brute force or power, raw power. Fa Jing, which is more of a refined power, skillful power coming through training. Okay, so for example, if I were to do that exercise that I just demonstrated before, push on here, if I was to do that with Fa Li and really use as much power in my body as I can to press. Okay, but in another way, I could do that using a feeling of expansion and openness and lengthening as I perform the exercise. I'm actually sitting into my stance a bit more. I'm using the posterior chain of my body, not tensing up my shoulders or my chest or my biceps, but I'm pressing into this pad with a feeling of lengthening and expansion. So two different types of ways of doing that. or two different levels, if you like. Now, if we look at how we do an exercise like Jiang Zhong in each one, or we use 6 directions of force, of holding, absorbing. Okay, now when I do this, it's not like a dynamic tension exercise. I'm not tensing my body up and making it very, very tight. I'm expanding. Yeah, I'm opening up. I'm stretching my tendons in my body, which is exactly the same thing. Okay, so there's different ways of doing it at different levels, which can be very, very applicable. So please let me know if you have enjoyed this video and have any comments or feedback. I would be interested to make some more videos on isometrics, showing some more specific exercises and how you can apply it into Chinese martial arts. Last thing, shameless plug time, my book, Strength and Conditioning for the Internal Martial Artist, is still available from lineofintent.com. Hope you enjoy that too. And train hard and train safe. Thank you.